Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. The president will deliver his second State of the Union address about an hour from now. It is his first speech to a divided Congress. What will he say, and how will Democrats, newly in the House majority, react to his proposals? Ed Henry has been on the text of this and joins us tonight.
Tucker, good to see you. The president, of course, campaigned on making America great again. So tonight's first big theme is what they call choosing greatness at the White House. He's going to try to make the case. He's already accomplished a lot of that, despite distractions from various investigations, plus a Democratic Party dominated by resist. Big stage for the president to lay the groundwork for his 2020 reelection by touting gains in the economy, from low unemployment to rising wages, as he also zeroes in on what he wants to get done this year in the face of an even more hostile political environment. With, of course, Speaker Nancy Pelosi will be front and center tonight. She's now running a House populated with lawmakers who want to block his agenda, possibly even impeach him. White House officials previewing he'll focus on this: safe and legal immigration, protecting American workers, rebuilding America, lowering the cost of health care and prescription drugs, and protecting America's national security. That sounds fairly bipartisan, yet yesterday, 24 hours before the speech, Democrat Chuck Schumer charged the speech will be full of lies and that the state of the Trump presidency is full of incompetence. Not a good sign for the second big theme of the speech, unity. Nor is the fact that Schumer today declared the president is just a warm-up act for former Georgia State House Minority Leader Stacey Abrams, giving the Democratic response. That explains why, breaking tonight, the New York Times is quoting aides as saying the president has been privately complaining early drafts of this speech were too kind to Democrats. And sources I've spoken to say they've been meeting with the president in recent days. They say he's saying in private the administration has already found billions of dollars in unspent military construction funds that could be respent on a border wall, repurposed. One way he could go around Democrats in the Congress without formally declaring a national emergency. Tucker?
Fascinating. Maybe we'll hear more about that tonight. Henry, thank you very much. Well, you're looking now at live pictures of the U.S. Capitol building, the steps from where we are now. The president will deliver his State of the Union address there in a little over an hour. We'll have continuing coverage of that, of course, all night. But first, we want to bring you more news from the newly volatile Commonwealth of Virginia. Just 24 hours ago, it was a completely different picture. At that point, the state's lieutenant governor, Justin Fairfax, fully expected a job promotion, of course, because the governor, Ralph Northam, was found to have a Klan hood on his med school yearbook page. But that's not how it worked out. Now, Justin Fairfax himself stands accused of serious wrongdoing. A politics professor from California called Vanessa Tyson says that Fairfax sexually assaulted her in his hotel room at the 2004 Democratic National Convention in Boston. Her description of that is graphic. Now, Tyson is an active Democrat. She's got degrees from Princeton and the University of Chicago. It's not easy to dismiss her claims out of hand, and yet Fairfax is. He says there was a sexual encounter between the two, but he describes it as consensual. Here's the interesting thing. His Democratic colleagues are standing with him and against her tonight. In other words, in the space of just a few months, the standard for believing sexual assault accusers has changed completely. So here, in case you've forgotten, is how prominent Democrats responded to the unsubstantiated allegations brought against Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. Watch.
Let me just say right at the outset, I believe Dr. Ford. I believe the survivor here.
I commend her courage. I believe her.
Do you believe her story?
Well, I could tell you it really does have a ring of truth to it.
I think the allegations of Professor Ford are extremely credible.
I believe her because she's telling the truth. Someone who is lying does not ask the FBI to investigate their claims. Judge Kavanaugh has not asked to have the FBI review these claims. Is that the reaction of an innocent person? It is not.
I commend her courage. She's telling the truth because she is, said Kirsten Gillibrand at the time. Are they saying that tonight? No. They no longer believe all women, not anymore. Neither does the Washington Post, which you remember was the very first to report on Christine Blasey Ford's allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. And in fact, that same newspaper, owned by the richest man in the world, Jeff Bezos, as a vanity project, first investigated the Fairfax story, but strangely decided not to publish it. It's just a he said, she said story, they said, pushed by some professor out in California. The irony is unbelievable, but it's definitely not worthy of print. Just so you know the standard. Tammy Bruce is president of Independent Women's Voice, and she joins us tonight. So, Tammy, what, for those of us searching for some standard that we can look to govern our own behavior and our own judgments, what is the standard?
Well, the standard is to take women seriously. The standard is to take people who make allegations, people who make statements about either violence or crime, is not to believe them out of hand immediately, because there are issues of due process and facts to be found, but you take them seriously. That's what we've asked for as women in dealing with issues like this. And this was my message throughout the Kavanaugh hearing. When it comes to Christine Ford, it was to take her seriously. I think something happened to her, but then we determined as this unfolded that it was likely not Brett Kavanaugh. And interestingly, in this case, you've got someone who is, as you've noted, is actually not from an opposing political party. There's less of an idea that there might be a political motive here. And yet Ms. Tyson should also be taken seriously, but I would not say that we should just believe her out of hand.
No.
What this marks, Tucker, is the problem when this kind of an issue is used for partisan purposes and where a group of people look to one party to be the saviors on an issue, because then it becomes weaponized. And you never get to a point where you can actually have solutions on the issue. One side uses it to get the other side, and then they ignore it when it happens to their side. And what I predicted during Kavanaugh has come true. Ms. Tyson now is being abandoned by the very same people who said that, you know, this is the most important issue in the world, and they tried to destroy Brett Kavanaugh over this, and it happens to women all the time and every day. And now we're looking at women suspiciously. If you're a Democrat, if you're accusing a Democrat, you aren't to be taken seriously. If you're accusing a Republican, you should. This is the problem with making this kind of an issue a partisan issue.
I totally agree. It degrades and corrupts everything. It always does. And you made that point months ago on the Kavanaugh story, and you turned out to be right.
This was predictable, and it is something we must still fight against, and this is unfortunately a good example of it. Ms. Tyson deserves to, at the very least, be taken seriously.
Yeah, and the rest of us should, hear her out, hear the facts, assess. Tammy, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tucker.
So we're talking about this now on live TV, but apparently the internet was out of service in the U.S. Senate today, at least on the Democratic side. Democratic senators seem to know nothing at all about the allegations against Lieutenant Governor of Virginia. Some even said they'd never heard of him. Justin Fairfax, Lieutenant Governor of where? So Henry Rogers of the Daily Caller went over to the Senate today to ask, what do you think of this? And here's what he found.
I haven't even looked at the details about that. I really haven't.
Well, I think we've got to get more information at this point.
I don't know who Justin Fairfax is.
Lieutenant Governor. Lieutenant Governor.
Oh, no, I don't want to get into that. Thank you.
No. Bernie Sanders didn't want to talk about it at all. So instead, he pretended to take a phone call. Watch this.
Justin Fairfax's accuser, sir? Senator Sanders, do you believe
he can't right now?
Why is that?
We're discussing something right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So, Senator Sanders, do you believe that or no?
Go ahead.
No? Now, do you believe Justin Fairfax, his accuser? His accuser.
Okay, Ari. Okay. What time
you don't?
Excuse me.
You're not on the phone. You're not on the phone.
Excuse me.
Sir. I'm asking you a question.
Hashtag believe all women? Nah, not so much. Not the ones accusing Democratic office holders anyway. The Mary Jo Kopechne standard. What is the standard anyway? Richard Goodstein may know. He was an advisor to both of the Clintons, and he joins us tonight. Now, I would just say two things really quick in preface. One, you were on a lot during the Kavanaugh hearings, and you were not one of the people saying that we have to believe all women simply because they're women. We checked the tape today, actually. So good for you. But many in your party made that case on the specific question of sexual assault. They said it's not like bank fraud or even regular assault. It's a very different category, and people who've been victims of it must be believed automatically, axiomatically. And if you don't believe them, people said this on our set and got emotional saying it, then you're a misogynist. But that standard is not being upheld with this woman. Why is that, I wonder?
Well, I do think that if we're going to apply that standard, it should be applied toward the women that have accused President Trump of sexual misconduct, too, right? So I hope there's some equality when it comes to that.
Let me just say that I'm not advocating for that standard. I think that people lie about everything. I've seen it. People are fallen. They're flawed. And most people tell the truth, but some lie. I've literally seen it myself. So I don't think we should believe anybody without evidence, ever.
Right.
But Democrats disagree with me. They say people who claim sexual assault should be believed automatically, but they're not believing this woman automatically. So what is the standard?
Well, again, as regards Al Franken, Democrats acted pretty quickly based on, frankly, evidence that was not all that damning in kind of the grand scheme of things, right? And they got him out. Talk about a rising star.
Yeah.
So
I defended him on the show.
Good to your credit. And the other thing about Blasey Ford is, you know, it was, when they said believe her, it was in the context of she put a second front door on her house because she was traumatized by what she said Brett Kavanaugh did to her. How many people do you know who have two front doors on their house?
Look, I'm not going to, but I mean, that's not the case they made, actually, long before we learned about her second front door, which I think was actually for business. But whatever it was for, Mazie Hirono and that woman from New York, who's a senator, I guess, who's running for president, Kirsten Gillibrand, said, I believe her because she's telling the truth. That's a verbatim quote from Gillibrand. Yeah. I believe her because she's telling the truth. Right. They're like, who is this woman? Who cares what she thinks? Why doesn't anyone defend her? Why doesn't anyone talk to her? Are Democrats talking to her, do you think?
Look, we'll see. Look, I don't think when the evidence comes out about if there's anything more than what we've seen, you know, Democrats will have to make a decision. I think what they were talking about, though, at the time of Blasey Ford was the contrast was Donald Trump mocking Blasey Ford at a rally and before a national TV audience, mocking her.
I get it.
Because he said her memory wasn't perfect.
That's fine.
That's nauseating.
Okay, they didn't like it. I get it. Maybe that's true. Fine. I'm not here to defend that. I'm just asking, why isn't Mazie Hirono, who told us that women always tell the truth and men always lie because that's their nature, why hasn't she called this woman on the phone and asked to hear her story?
Because I think there's a difference between a Supreme Court justice with lifetime tenure and a lieutenant governor, right? Who may or may not become governor.
Does that change the nature of the crime?
Of course not.
But it changes the political calculation.
But Mazie Hirono had to vote on Brett Kavanaugh. She doesn't have to vote on Justin Fairfax, right?
No, Justin Fairfax is an even more reliable Democrat than the governor he would replace. And so there's no political cost to Democrats. All they care about is politics and winning and being in charge and imposing their will. As you know, power is the only thing that matters to them. But so why pretend otherwise?
And the person that would replace him, Mark Herring, who's the Attorney General of Virginia, actually beat Fairfax when they ran in the Democratic primary for Attorney General. He's a reliable Democrat, too. So it's not the case that, oh, we got to draw the line and protect Fairfax because there's going to be a Republican. No, there's not. So, again, I don't think it's a federal issue quite yet.
But the rest of us are wondering, because it does seem like you can kill a woman, as Ted Kennedy did, literally kill her by your negligence, run away as she drowns, and you're a feminist hero. How does that work? I mean, how do I know if I'm behaving in a way consistent with the Democratic Party's views on women? What do I need to do, other than support abortion?
Well, again, you could pick out any examples. I don't want to talk about grabbing women by the you-know-what that Donald Trump and then his boosters thought that was so kind of, that was boys being boys in locker rooms.
I never met anybody who said, you know what, I was on the fence till I saw the Access Hollywood tape, now I'm all in. His supporters voted for him in spite of that, I think.
No, but they kind of said, boys will be boys. That was kind of
I never heard anybody say that. I heard people wince, being like, but I agree with him on immigration. Yeah, I agree with him on immigration and trade, and that's why I'm voting for him. I mean, honestly.
Yeah. Well,
Richard, let's get to the bottom of this story.
I hope we do.
Every night this week.
I hope we do.
Good to see you.
Sure.